Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show. Hello everybody, welcome in. It is a late night here in Dallas. Time is 1:02 a.m. Megan, we just wrapped up game 2, Avs Stars. A second just thrilling game here to kick off this series, Megan. Avs dropped this one 4-3 in overtime. It's Colin Blackwell who finds the back of the net for the Stars after they tie the game in the third period. Megan, I thought this was a game that the Avs carried the pace for a lot of, but Pete DeBoer said it in his post-game availability. Their season was on the line. He felt like if they left this building down 2-0, that they were not going to really have much of a chance to get back in this game heading into Denver. Their season was on the line. They knew it, and I thought the Stars played with that level of desperation. Broad strokes, what did you see in this one?
It was much tighter on either side. I thought that it was a close game in Game 1, but Colorado had a bit of an edge, especially 5v5, and contained some of Dallas's best players. And in Game 2, some of the players that needed to make more of a difference, Wyatt Johnston, Jamie Benn, they really showed up in a bigger way in Game 2. And so it felt like the team-wide response from Dallas was a much stronger push of some of the things that have brought them success in the regular season. And so they played to their strengths a lot more. I thought the Avs didn't really stray from what rewarded them in Game 1 either. But when they did, it cost them in a big way because Dallas was playing from a place of desperation and their push was really dangerous for the Avs to contend with. So I think that they felt a little too comfortable in the third period, and they were a bit undisciplined in the second period. I thought it was still a good period from the Avs, but ultimately resting on their laurels, even in the slightest bit in the third period, is ultimately what I think cost them in this game, because that was when Dallas saw a sliver of opportunity and they took it. It felt like every inch of ice, both teams were battling for it in the final frame. And then it was a heated track race up and down the ice, both ends, for overtime. And so it felt like it was anyone's game at that point. And to your point, Dallas's series was on the line because it would have been a huge turning point if Colorado went up 2 games going into their own building come Wednesday for Game 3. So there's a lot to play for on the Dallas side, but I like the compete from Colorado in a lot of ways too. So though I would have liked for them to come away with the win, that would have been best case scenario, it's still okay case scenario for me.
Yeah, and I thought that the first 40 minutes of this game, I actually thought that the Dallas Stars, I always hate that, Dallas Stars' best players, I thought the Avs completely contained them. Mikko Rantanen, again, really a non-factor in this game. Tyler Seguin gets the power play goal at the end of the first, but at 5-on-5, I felt like the Avs were just locking up a lot of what the Stars were wanting to do, denying a lot of zone exits out of Dallas's own defensive zone. But to your point, it was dialed up for the Stars in the third, and the Avs, I don't even necessarily want to say had a hard time matching it. That's what you expect for a team in Dallas's situation. And don't forget, folks, the Avs are on the road here. Dallas had a very good regular season. This is a very good team. If you were expecting them to go quietly and for the Avs to just kind of take over this series and run away with it, I'm not sure what you were kind of preparing yourself for. Dallas came out in the third, and I thought exactly what you were just saying. They got to the net, they got to the middle, they got to the interior of the ice. They found pucks in and around Blackwood. They created havoc. They drew penalties, and the Avs, I thought, played a good enough game. You're one shot away in overtime. It ends up being a bad turnover at the blue line. We'll get to all of that. But like you said, it's definitely not worst case scenario. As Mackenzie Blackwood said after the game, if you told us that we were coming out of here split 1 game apiece and had a shot in overtime of another one, well, I think we'd probably take that, before the series. So your job when you go on the road to start a series is to take one, steal home ice back. The Avs have now done that. Avs now got to defend their own home ice for these next 2 games. But let's start off the top. We talked in our pregame about the Avs having to withstand a push. I felt like they really didn't have to because they came out, they were on their toes and kind of took the game to Dallas to start.
Yeah, going back to the first period, there are a lot of things that I like inside that period most out of this game. And we talked about the strong starts that Dallas can get off to. I felt the Avs had the right jump from the drop of the puck. You know, there were lots of players getting involved offensively. The top six, too. It's where I saw some more out of players like Nichushkin had a great A chance early, but you also saw Jack Drury try for the backhand over Ottinger's glove that just rolled on him at the last second, and they were heavy shifts from everybody, but especially that fourth line yet again, setting the tone early with heavy physical play, and the Avs nearly out-hit the Dallas Stars double in the first game. This was a much closer margin in this game, but I like inside the first period that the Avs came out and they led in the hits battle. You know, Miles Wood made an impression in that sense, came away from that period with a team high in hits. And so it felt like a high wire act at times too, the way that the Avs were playing, but they were dangerous because they were just pushing so hard. And I think the other thing too is Dallas committed more mistakes with the puck in the first period than we saw them make later in this game. So Jared Bednar talks about puck management on Colorado's side of things later in this game. This was a period where the Avs were a lot more responsible, whereas Dallas was committing a few more mistakes. And so Colorado was capitalizing on that. And I liked how opportunistic they were to start this game.
And again, to me, a lot of that puck management problem from Dallas came from the way that the Avs were defending at Dallas's blue line through the neutral zone. They were forcing, in my opinion, they were forcing a lot of mistakes. Dallas had no time, no space to do anything in the first period. And that, to me, is maybe the biggest difference between the first and the third, to the point that you were just making about Dallas being a little bit more responsible with that puck, being able to make plays through the neutral zone the way they wanted to be able to get up ice and get into the Avs zone. Again, our friend Evan Rowell put it on Twitter, like, keep in mind there's a team that had 108, 110 points on the other side of this, and has a say in things as well. But to me, that was the difference between the first period and where we saw things go in the third period. Was the Stars, I thought, were dictating a lot more pace. The Avs weren't creating turnovers. They weren't forcing the Stars out of their comfort zone. They weren't going at those parts of the lineup, particularly the back end, where I think Dallas is most vulnerable right now. If you want to use the term sitting back, I guess that's a phrase you could use. Maybe just not as on their toes, in my opinion, in that third period. But the way that they played in the first, I think, is a style that can give this Avs group a lot of confidence about what they can do with this Dallas Stars team that they're matched up against, especially heading back home where you're going to get that matchup advantage.
I like this shutout because I think a storyline that might get lost in this game is how well Lindgren and Manson played, especially early in this game. And so there was a confidence. I, even in my notes, wrote it as a little bit of arrogance at times in that first period with the way the Avs started, because every player on the ice saw the opportunity to be a threat. So there was this cross-ice passing play from McKinnon to Lehkonen that led to a little bit of a skirmish there. Manson tried to skate the puck through the slot, and he had the puck stripped away from him, but that's where he was playing a little bit cocky in their own end, though they were sound plays defensively, and I thought that Lindgren and Manson, I worried that they would be too much of the same thing, but I think that Manson has the puck skill and this desire to move play north that Lindgren can compete with. I also like how Lindgren's skating held up over the course of the game. He still had a little bit of battery left despite playing so much, and I think the Avs coming out and recognizing that it didn't just have to be the cross-ice play from McKinnon to Lehkonen. And, I talk about Drury, his backhand attempt over Ottinger's glove. It starts with a play in his own end along the wall, and so it was really responsible at both ends of the ice, and everybody was getting involved, to include this Manson-Lindgren pair, which I really liked, especially the way they started this game.
Physical, engaged. I think it was in the first period. I looked at you at a stoppage, and I said there were two separate plays, one from Lindgren, one from Manson, that I really, really liked on that shift. What I liked for the Avs in this game, and I even include the third period in this, Megan, I thought the Avs responded really well to pushes from Dallas. When Dallas would get on the board, I thought the Avs, this can be a tough building to play in. This building gets loud. It's an interesting between the whistles building. There's just a lot going on in here all the time. But the fans are into it. The fans get on you. This team really seems to feed well off the crowd. And there was a couple opportunities tonight, in my opinion, where Dallas could have really started to get going. The Avs found a way to stop, push things the other way, whether it be getting a goal, creating chances. And in the second period, the Avs actually fall behind 2-1. But it's the depth, once again, that comes through for the Avs. It is Jack Drury who gets the Avs back in the game pretty immediately after they fall behind. Again, even in the third period into overtime in this one, that was something I liked from the Avs, that when Dallas was able to get it even in the third, they did get back on their toes a bit and push back. Felt like the second period is maybe the best example of that.
Yeah, and I'll give the Avs some credit. The numbers aren't going to reflect this because they took 3 penalties in the second period alone. And so the possession numbers, the shots battle, it's going to not favor them in possession. They're going to come away one shot down from Dallas coming out of the second period. But I thought they did a lot of things well, obviously starting with the Jack Drury goal. It starts in their own end with EJ sacrificing the body to lay a big hit in the corner and Nelson staying with the puck to help set up Lindgren for the exit. And then from there, it's just kind of relentless pursuit of the puck of Logan O'Connor to help win this race and play this smartly to find a seam ahead of Hintz, which is just really impressive for the backhand pass to Drury. And then, of course, for Drury to beat Ottinger is the other step in this. Finds a lane through Mikko Rantanen to the net to beat Ottinger to help put them back in this game. And you look at the hard work and all the names that I just mentioned that make this play happen from start to finish, starting in their own end. And that's exactly why we continue to emphasize the formula of success for the Avs. It does require the 5-man unit on the ice to work together, and it might be the play unfolding starting in their own end. They have to make some sacrifices. And I think that's the kind of thing that rewards them, because even following this Drury goal, they go on the kill. Drury was huge on the kill tonight. He has a huge block at the end of that kill, and it just helps to keep the momentum going. There was a play shortly after that, too, where McKinnon, he's like a junkyard dog in the postseason, and you see him shouldering guys after the draw to win pucks back. And then, of course, the Logan O'Connor goal comes a little bit later. We'll get into that. But there are things I like in the second period that also might get a little bit lost in the storyline of this game that I want to shout out.
Well, I mean, the penalty kill in particular at the end of the second period, the game is tied. Dallas gets a power play. Then they get a short 5-on-3. And I want to pause here real fast because we were talking up there in the press box. Oh, of course, I hate when that happens. We were talking in the press box saying Dallas gets that 5-on-3 and they call a timeout. And we heard from Pete DeBoer in the last game, in game 1, where they called a timeout when they had a power play. And he said, well, Thomas Harley can't play the whole game. We need to give him a break. We don't have Miro Heiskanen, so we wanted to keep Thomas out there, so we needed to call a timeout. You had played a lot of a power play, and then they got the 5-on-3 called, and they got about 12 seconds of it. Pete DeBoer calls a timeout again to keep that top unit on the ice. And I made the point to you, I said, this is a little bit interesting, because I feel like this feels like the roles are reversed from last year, where the Avs were that team that didn't want to roll their second unit and would take a timeout in the series against Dallas in order to give their top guys a rest at the halfway point of the game. To me, I think that's something to keep an eye on here as this series continues to unfold. Miro Heiskanen does not look like he's ready to come back. He's kind of just walking through, any type of practice, drills, things like that. Not really with any type of speed, intensity, contact, nothing like that. Jason Robertson, not even on the ice. That's something I think that's going to be important to keep an eye on. But the Avs get those both those penalties killed, and immediately off of that, they go the other way. Nathan McKinnon helps lead the rush. Logan O'Connor goes to the net and just continues such a strong game, thriving in the playoffs. Another big name that the Avs missed a lot last year, Megan.
Yeah, we talked a little bit to Parker Kelly this morning about how, obviously, the loss of Vanda Chushkin is one of those big names that comes up in reflecting on the Dallas series last year. But another big name missing for the Avs last year during the Dallas series was Logan O'Connor. And his style of hockey, and honestly what his line is doing, I love the comparisons to the 2022 fourth line, but I actually feel like they even bring about something different. And it could be because I'm too far removed from the 2022 team to fully appreciate what it once was. But I just love the heart that Kelly and Drury and OC play with. OC, it's nothing new, but goodness, you see just how sorely they missed him in this last Dallas series, a year ago, because that is what keeps lines 1 through 4 a threat on the ice at all times. They maybe didn't respect, Hintz maybe didn't respect that Logan O'Connor was the puck carrier in that situation, and that's how he's able to find a seam to Jack Drury in between the hash marks there. And maybe Rantanen doesn't respect Drury's shot in his lane to the net. I'm not on the ice, I'm speculating, but that's why I love it, is because they're going to be a threat because they're relentless. You look at the Logan O'Connor goal later, and he's even, got Marchman trying to back check him, and it doesn't matter, back to the net. He still throws it past Ottinger, and that play maybe wouldn't, it wasn't necessarily a high-skilled play. It was just so committed from start to finish.
I do think that's a higher skilled play than people will give it credit for, and I think it's just such a great representation of how good fourth-line players are in the NHL, like how good they are at hockey. I think those goals were always great testaments to that. Mason Marchment becoming a villain in this series against the Avs. It seems like he's involved in everything. I'm worried about his neck. It snaps back really hard a lot. He's definitely, for better or for worse, he's had a couple penalties called on him in this series. He's drawn a couple penalties. He's leaving an imprint on this series so far. Either way, look, we go into the third period. Jared Bednar said they were more desperate than we were. Pete DeBoer talked about their series was on the line. The Dallas Stars came out. The Avs were able to hold them off for a while, but eventually it's Evgeny Dadonov who gets one to go. That sends us to overtime. Look, to me, this third period, it's not anything crazy to break down. You had a team that desperately needed to get a win before heading out on the road, throwing everything they had at a team that was trying to steal a second game, starting the series away from home.
Yeah, it's pretty cut and dry what happens here. I talked about Wyatt Johnston being a player that Dallas needed to see more from, and he puts the puck to the net, and Dadonov's there. And, Kiviranta trying to clear him from the crease, but the Avs lost the battle in the corner at the start of this play. And so they can't win every puck battle, and I fully understand that. And I that's where I want to give the Avs some credit. This is where Jared Bednar said this, so I'm taking his analysis. The margin for error in this game is so paper thin because both these teams have a say in it, and these are both good teams. Like Dallas finished ahead of Colorado in the Central Division, and I know they kind of skidded into the postseason with how they rounded out their year, but there's a reason they had so much success in the regular season. And even without key players, that is the kind of push. Honestly, even reflecting on Mikko Rantanen's return to Denver debut game, that late push that Dallas made to force OT in that game reminded me a lot of what happened tonight. And it's not because the Avs played without heart at the end of it all. I still felt like there was a lot of passion from the Avs in the third period. Dallas just has a say in this series too.
Yeah, and a name we haven't really mentioned much is Jake Ottinger. I thought Mackenzie Blackwood was really good again tonight. Mackenzie Blackwood was an obvious difference maker in Game 1. Jake Ottinger, a clear difference maker in Game 2 for my money, right down to the last 11 seconds of regulation. Comes up with a huge stop on Marty Netchis late on an Avs power play. So that's the other side of this as well. The Avs go into the third period, and it's a one-goal game. You're one shot away from this game being tied, playing against a very good Dallas Stars team that was desperate. Then, yeah, like you said, they got into overtime, and it was up and down. It really felt like a goal was going to be scored the way that one was, where broken play off a rush, a lot of chaos, and someone finds the back of the net. Again, Megan, for me, I just look at this and say we've seen two really good hockey games, and each team come away with a win. This so far is going exactly as I expected.
Yeah, asked Jared Bednar too, where he felt Dallas showed up stronger in Game 2 compared to Game 1, and he said that they created a lot of havoc, and this is something that they ordinarily do, but they did more of in Game 2. And I do feel for Mackenzie Blackwood because we've talked about rebound control and things like that, but the reality is a goalie giving up a rebound, especially in this exact context, is a goalie who made an initial stop and a really important one at that. And so you look at the expected goals against at the end of the night for Mackenzie Blackwood, and it's .471, only lets 4 past him. A lot of high danger chances on behalf of Dallas because they were pushing for second and third attempts, because they were creating a lot of chaos. This isn't an issue of Mackenzie Blackwood not seeing pucks. There's just only so much that he can do. And so I also felt the Avs tried to protect the house throughout much of this game, but it is ultimately that paper-thin margin that we're talking about that decides this one. And you could just feel the loosey-goosey hockey in overtime was different. It was up and down the ice. You look at the analytics, too, and Dallas came away with more high-danger chances because they were creating a lot of havoc. The time spent in Colorado's end, especially in overtime, was meaningful. It was difficult for the Avs to get the puck out of their end and create the same kind of danger and grade A chances in Dallas's end. And I think that's something they're going to reflect on. Maybe I think they needed to create more havoc in front of Ottinger in overtime. I think that's the difference between why Dallas comes away with the series now split going into Game 3.
Yeah. Oh, damn, you made a point there that I wanted to build on. Doesn't matter. Let's start to wind things down a little bit here. It is approaching 1:30 in the morning, so we're going to wind things down. But I want to talk about just a couple individuals that we haven't gotten to quite yet, and the first one is Miles Wood. I think when you look online, there is a lot of thoughts out there on Miles Wood. He does have the turnover in overtime that leads to the Dallas Stars goal. He owned up to that in the locker room, telling Corey Massasak, Arif Dean, that's my fault. I turned the puck over. I asked Jared Bednar about him after the game, and I said, look, Miles Wood draws the penalty early. You guys score a goal on it. But he has to play in overtime. He obviously, there's a layer to this as well. And the other player that I'm going to talk about is Gabe Landeskog after this. But Miles Wood obviously draws into the lineup. We come to find out after the game, this is a decision that was made yesterday. They knew Gabe Landeskog wasn't playing today. He wanted to take part in warm-ups, but Miles Wood draws in. Jared Bednar said he thought he was outstanding until the play in overtime, and he says it's tough because it's a really significant play where, he makes a mistake. Miles Wood drawing in for the injured Ross Colton.
Yeah, given how difficult it is to stay game ready when you're getting in and out of games, the way that he did, especially approaching the end of the season, I have to give him a lot of credit. It is hard to then draw into a playoff game after not necessarily getting those regular game rips and building up to it. And he draws a penalty early in this game, and it's such a Miles Wood thing, too, because he's using his speed to bait Dallas into taking that exact kind of penalty. And so his physicality stood out immediately out of the first period, but it persisted over the course of the entire game. And so every shift, he is throwing the body around like a heat-seeking missile. Charlie Coyle, too. I like the way those two work together, and I like that Miles Wood was starting to find some chemistry with Coyle, and it seemed like he picked right back up where he left off. Obviously, the mistake in overtime, it stands out as a glaring one, but I thought that Miles Wood was doing a lot more responsibly, especially given the nature of this player and sometimes how we talk about him and a lack of discipline. I thought he had a lot of discipline for so much more of this game, and I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. When I look at the possibility of Landeskog being in this game, I don't know if the outcome is different, because this really felt like it came down to Dallas having a say in all of it. And we talked about this morning how Landeskog isn't going to want to come in and push out a healthy player in the lineup. I think that's just going to be hard for him to mentally reconcile. And Miles Wood is a healthy player that found ways to help this team tonight, that I think that he deserves to be a part of that conversation, being the guy that draws in. And there's still plenty of opportunity for Landeskog to help this team in this series, but I thought Miles Wood did a lot more good than we might remember when this is all said and done.
What's hard for Miles Wood is he's combating the fact that he has struggled this season. The play hasn't been what it's needed to be. And there's been big mistakes at times this year. So that is what makes a night like tonight so hard, from my perspective, for Miles Wood to be the one to make that mistake. Hockey is a what have you done for me lately business. Miles Wood has struggled lately. For him to come in have a good game, have a positive impact on the game, but then have it be his stick that the last mistake comes off of. To your point, that's going to be a taste that sticks in people's mouth fairly or unfairly. The other part of this is Gabe Landeskog. There was a lot of speculation today that he could be the one drawing in. I think he probably comes in for Game 3 now. He's now gone through the entire progression. This is what Jared Bednar told us after the game, that Gabe Landeskog wanted to go through a game, preparing for a game day, knowing that he wasn't going to play at the end of it. But to go through that process, get his routines again. To me, that points towards a return in Game 3. And now I think there is a little bit of an excuse to shake up your lineup a bit. You lost Game 2. You don't maybe love the way that things went late in that game. I think if you're Jared Bednar, you can shake it up, get Gabe Landeskog in, if that's what you're wanting to do and if that's what his return to play schedule says. Do you have any thoughts on Gabe before we get out of here for tonight?
No, I think he can help this series, and I think when talking about the options that are available to Bednar, he's talked about the intangibles of Gabe's game in terms of what he brings as a leader, and he's a really vocal leader too who can help contextualize aspects of the game as they unfold, and that is one thing that I think could have been of added value tonight to help keep the context of the game in order. And I don't think these guys lacked inspiration or passion, but I think he can steady the group when they need it most, and I think he can hype them up too, like it just, I don't know, in the final minutes of a game this close. And so his value to this team is very huge, and I still think he can help this series.
Well, and as a guy, we talk a lot about needing to go to the net, needing to get in Jake Ottinger's eyes, finding rebounds, making it difficult for him to see the puck. He's a guy that's going to do that, in my opinion, more effectively than Miles would, in causing that havoc in front, especially when you're looking at a power play late. 2 minutes to go, if you have Gabe Landeskog out there helping with that traffic in front like a Val Nichushkin, that's just me. I think Gabe Landeskog's going to be a more effective, efficient player around the net than maybe what you got out of Miles Wood tonight. Not saying that Miles Wood played poorly, just the difference between Gabe Landeskog and Miles Wood, or whoever might be coming out of that lineup. To your point, late in that game when you have an opportunity, that's where I think you maybe could have seen a difference with Gabe Landeskog, but we'll never know. What final thoughts do you have on this one, Megan?
Yeah, just really different players, different roles, because I'm kind of looking to some other players that could establish themselves as net front guys that I needed to see a little bit more out of, and that is Brock Nelson and Val Nichushkin late in this game. I liked what they did earlier in this game, but I think their importance was emphasized late, and I didn't see enough. So I'm kind of turning my attention away from Miles Wood and looking at those guys going into Game 3.
I asked Jared Bednar what he needed to see out of his second line. He said, I need to see more. Those are guys that I think are going to have a key role, but Jared Bednar is not going to pull Brock Nelson, Val Nichushkin, Jonathan Drouin out for Gabe Landeskog, or at least that would be crazy if he did. And so they aren't going to get a chance to say, oh, well, you can just pull them out and replace them with Gabe Landeskog. No, these are guys that got to figure it out. And these are guys that have got to find a way to get themselves inserted in this series. For me, yes, Brock Nelson. Yes, Jonathan Drouin. I'm looking at Val Nichushkin in particular. He's a guy that we've talked so much about being an X factor, so much about, well, hey, they were missing him last year. What a big loss that was. He's got to find a way to insert himself into this series. I think maybe, in my opinion, more than anyone else on that second line. We do have a couple super chats here from Vaguely. Yeah, the super chat lights are going in this arena. I've been about to have a stroke all night with the super chat lights, just on nonstop. And then another one from Vaguely. Get home safely. Yes, we are flying out tomorrow. We'll be back home. Nothing really from the Avs tomorrow. Then we're back at it with Game 3 on Wednesday. Megan, you got anything else before we get out of here?
I'm going to fight Jason Smith in the chat, actually. Jason, where are you at? I'm just kidding. That's aggressive. No, I'm not Miles Wood's agent. I just think that you lose as a team, and the Avs had opportunities to not lose this game in overtime that aren't solely Miles Wood's fault alone. So the only guy that I really give a complete, total pass to is Mackenzie Blackwood. I thought he played out of his mind good hockey. So, yeah, that's the only person I'm giving a free pass to. And I want you to be more respectful, Jason.
All right, that's going to do it. Game 2, Avs dropped this one 4-3, heading back home. Series evened up. That's what you're asked to do when you're going on the road to start a series. Steal one on the road. The Avs did their job. They're getting out of Dallas. Evened up. See what happens back home. She's Megan. I'm Jesse. Mark behind the lens tonight. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. We'll talk to you back home. Good night. See ya.